You were evolving. And this is where I think so many people have this inherent of I'm starting over. It's never starting over, be it personal or professional. Everything you went through before doesn't get erased because you pivot. And so just like my story, I didn't start over when I left retail. I took all of that knowledge and brought it with me to my next adventure, which was startups. I didn't start over when I went fractional. I took all my experience and brought it with me. But we have this inherent belief that because we've changed the packaging, therefore it's starting over. It's not. You're evolving. You're evolving who you are, what you deliver, what you want to do. So anytime somebody tells you you have to take a step down or you have to take a pay cut or you have to, that is not true. That is not accurate and that is not reality. You're not starting over. You are just repackaging.
Each week, I'm joined by my co-host Claudia Cuevas, licensed marriage and family therapist, as we explore the stories, lessons, and emotional realities behind transformation. Because reinvention isn't just about changing our circumstances. It's about understanding yourself. It's about healing. It's about letting go of who you thought you had to be so you can become who you were always meant to be. Whether you're navigating burnout, grief, identity shifts, career transitions, entrepreneurships, caregiving, or simply asking yourself, what's next? You are not alone. So take a breath, pull up a chair, and join us at the table. This is Elevate Within. Welcome back to Elevate Within. I'm your host, Sandy Davis.
And I'm your co-host, Claudia Cuevas.
This week, we sat down with Natalie Hoop, fractional COO, business coach, and founder of the Fractional Launch Lab for a conversation about corporate conditioning, self-worth, grief, and what it means to build a business that actually fits who you are. Natalie shared her journey through 17 years in retail leadership, underpricing herself in her first role as a fractional, the loss of her mother, and the questions that grief forced her to finally ask about what she truly wanted for her life and work. She also challenged the idea that changing directions means starting over, reminding us that reinvention is not about beginning from scratch. It's about recognizing the value of experiences, skills, and wisdom we've already earned, and we learned how to carry them into the next chapter. Today, Claudia and I are going to go deeper into looking into some of the emotional and psychological themes behind Natalie's story. Let's get into it. Claudia?
Let's get into it. What a great guest.
Yeah.
And she was awesome. I really enjoyed the way that she was able to kind of explain her journey, what she shared about her journey. And there was a lot of topics in her story that, we can kind of dissect a little bit. But one of the things that stood out to me the most was, she kept on talking about these limiting beliefs that she had and for her, she really felt like they were formed through her corporate experience, right? The managers that she had, the CEOs that she had to deal with, like all that stuff. But it really made me think about, what are limiting beliefs and where do those come from? And really, we would have to start talking about like family of origin, right? Because yes, we will get conditioned to working a certain way and within the environment and the corporation. I mean, every industry and every corporation will have its own kind of culture. And so, yeah, you have to learn how to perform and what's required of you. But really, we're so much more susceptible to these limited beliefs because of like how we were raised, right? What kind of system did we already come into that allowed us to stay? She stayed a long time in some of these areas where like,
Yeah, she had better patience than me.
That's what I'm saying. Like when I think about my limiting beliefs, I'm like, yeah, no, I didn't last that long because it was 3 years in. I was like, nope, this is not going to be for me. But it really made me think of like, where do we get some of these beliefs where like, I was curious of, Oh, I wonder if, she was raised with performance, like being validated through performance, right? That being successful, like I wonder what her family kind of like rejoiced, what her school life was of like, if you get A's, you do good, you're a good student, maybe the teachers liked her. Like those are all stuff that we learn from a very, very young age on what we
Mhm.
tend to believe that success is. And so it makes us a little bit more susceptible to being in those type of environments, or it makes it harder for us to kind of see when we're really being unhappy to leave, right? And so that for me was really curious to kind of just really delve into a little bit more of like, I wonder what they told her when she was little about
Yeah.
what it means to be successful.
And I think for a lot of women, especially in business or in personal life, right? If you had a past where, the old conditions of you have to be almost even keel,
Mhm.
just take the punches, go with the flow, just stick with it. I guess that belief of like, it'll get better
Uh-huh.
or so on and so forth. And for Natalie, it really took, well, actually, she was laid off. She
Uh-huh.
was laid off. She didn't even quit when her mom had passed and
Right.
she got upset and they let her go. Where I would have, that office would not have been clean by the time I walked out of it. I'll just put it
Right.
like that in a nice way.
Yeah.
So it's like for women like that, and I would love your perspective. Like,
Yeah.
where does that come from? And for those that may not recognize it, to help those women like recognize this, and
Yeah.
these are red flags.
I think she made it really clear that like that was, it was recent. I think 2017 or 2011, something like that, where it wasn't like
Yeah.
you said, like it's not in the 1950s. We're not like in the 1970s. Like this
Mm-hmm.
happened relatively in the 2000s, right? And so there still was this, in order to be successful, our expectation is that you're even tempered, you don't get emotional, right? Because again, we're working against, and we know that already. We hear that now where women can't be empowered, they're too emotional. And so
And yet the
that
men
is
are all emotional.
that's still being said today, right? I mean, it's still being said about like, well, women are, and so I can't imagine 10 years ago, 15 years ago that was, I mean, it really was impactful where she said like they just did not respond well to the way that I was grieving my mother passing away. Like imagine, like all I imagined was that she was in her office crying. Like that's how bad I imagine it, right?
Yeah, because
People
she
can
doesn't come off the top. She doesn't come off as the type of person to be out in the open and extra dramatic type
But
of thing.
but I wonder if, if I wonder if people listened to that, they would have been like, "Oh my gosh, she probably was like, slamming doors or being hysterical or whatever, the name that they call it, where like she's just being over the top." And I'm like, the way that she described the environment, right, was that she probably was like, blowing her
Right,
nose, and it was like,
right.
"What, you're crying? Why are you crying? What's
Why your
going
eyes
on?"
red? Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I can't even imagine having, again, not being able to be supportive through her grief and, everything that someone goes through. And she said, like, what did I do? I ended up putting all that stuff to the side and getting to work, going on LinkedIn and taking another job because I needed to get a job. I need to provide. I need to be, I can't be without a job. Like people are depending on me. And so I
Mhm.
can't even imagine how long her grief, right? Going through those steps, having to push it aside because again, our success is measured through our performance. And then when she, ran into the fractional kind of like industry and all that, and I think something that came up was really interesting was the where she was saying that she underpriced herself.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
what it brought up for me was like, oh my gosh, like how often do we as women underprice ourselves, let alone our career, right? I mean, we already know we're getting paid less than, our male counterpart, but like in relationships with our partners,
Mhm.
like emotionally, how often do we underprice ourselves, right? Under appreciate ourselves?
Too many times.
Yeah.
Too many times.
Yeah, in the I just gotta give a little bit more. I just gotta do a little bit more. I'm not I'm having to juggle this like, career and motherhood or being in a relationship and being able to juggle those two things where we feel we've talked about this in other episodes where like we feel like we have to show up 100% for both.
Mhm.
Right. And so we're really diminishing our needs, our how do we like recover, like taking on a lot of the emotional load when it comes to like the home life because it's just what you expect, like not even asking for what you need. It's just like, all right, I'm supposed to do all of that.
It's also what you said. It's a conditioning
Hmm.
from, our upbringing,
Right.
where we're that what I would consider shrinking ourselves,
Huh?
and being always of service to everyone else.
That's the part where it's like, gosh, I'm like, it really made me think of like not just her, but like our listeners and having them really kind of sit back and think about where, if, maybe I'm getting a good paying job or I'm doing really well, but where am I coming up short for
Yep.
myself? What areas, right? There's this life wheel that's really interesting. And, it was developed for actually executives where they did this life wheel and they had them rate on a scale of 1 to 10 where they felt that they were being successful or lacked, right? And so it's this wheel where it has career, it has education, family life, spiritual life, um, purpose, right? And so I think as women, we need to kind of look at that wheel because we'd be surprised where we kind of like put ourselves. Like there should be balance in all those places. And so when I was doing a lot of workshops for some of like some lawyers and stuff, they would, career was 10, 10, 10, 10. Guess
Yeah.
where they were really lacking, where
Where
they'd come up short.
themselves,
Family life.
family life. You would think career and then family.
I know.
So what were the rankings?
So they would do like 10 for career. They would do like spirituality like a 4. I would see family life like 3, 5, right? Because depending on where they are in their career, the sacrifice is family. Because
Mm,
eventually I will,
true. Yeah.
eventually I'm doing all this so that I can provide for my family. But the question is not, do you provide for your family? Because that's like, how do you feel about your like finances, right? Finances, high, great, doing great, right?
Yep.
Even exercise, great. Education, they're better. Spirituality and family was one of the lowest ones. And so the questions I would ask is you need to really think about what you're doing and if it aligns with your purpose, right? With what your values
Mm,
are. Because I will bet that the majority, if you have a family or if you're going to have a family, that you're overworking yourself and doing all this stuff so that you can provide for your family and they can be happy and I can have more time with them and then da, 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 da. But you're not doing that. They're not practicing that, right?
right.
And so then we really did a workshop on working on like, how do you find more balance? And it was really hard. And so I think that we as women also struggle with finding balance, not because we're neglecting one or the other. It's because we find that the standard that we hold ourselves to, we can never achieve because it's 100% for both.
Yeah.
And so we've heard with a lot of the women that we've interviewed, that is one of the biggest struggles. I want to be a mom. I want to be there for my family. I want to raise my kids and I'm coming up short.
Yeah.
I'm not doing a good job with that, right? And what that does to your soul.
Yeah. It reminds me of a statement my mom used to always say. She was like, I may not have been a great mother, but I was a great provider. And then thinking about that now and having this conversation, it was more or less like, hey, providing for your family is almost equate to being successful in your career. It's a check the box. It's like, hey, they're almost like kind of equal because hey, I'm providing here. You're all good. You're all straight. Okay. I'm doing this. I'm, the high achieving, all this other stuff, corporate America. So it's almost like a check the box. You have everything you want, right? There's nothing that you're asking for that I'm not giving you except my time, my
Uh-huh.
attention, tucking you in at night, having dinner, or, whatever else mothers wish they can spend more time with their children doing and
Uh-huh.
really
Mhm.
watch them grow as opposed
Uh-huh.
to just providing.
And the sad part is most men don't struggle with that, right? Because the
No.
expectation is put on women to be that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so we have to be able to align with our value system and be able to align with that I mean, some of our listeners, I think it was even Natalie, she was the breadwinner. Her husband was a stay-at-home husband.
Hmm.
And she still felt like she wasn't being a good enough mom because she wasn't there for her kids. And, it was like, what?
You
Yeah.
know, I'm so glad I am now single because had I been in a relationship, I know, in my past relationships, they would be like, "You ain't never retire me." Be like, "No, whatever." But that could be from my upbringing. I'd be like, I'm not here to retire you.
Same.
I'm
I'm all same.
here to
What?
kind of retire myself early, but
Uh-huh.
no, boo boo. But I
Mhm.
get it when I do have a good friend. Her husband was a stay-at-home because childcare
Uh-huh.
was so expensive.
Oh, yeah.
So, on that aspect, if you have children, yes,
No,
I can
I
kinda see it.
totally understand, and I applaud the relationships that have figured it out and they say, "Look, between the both of us, who can make the higher income, who has the potential to make the higher income, then this makes sense that you stay home and da 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 da." And like we're working together. That I don't believe in gender roles. Like I really am this person who believes in what are your best capabilities, right? And
Mhm.
so if my husband's a great cook, guess what he's doing? Because not because it's a woman's job it's because you do it faster, better and stuff, right? If I'm really good at finances and I like to do the bookkeeping and I'm very detail oriented, then I take care of the finances because that is a strength that I have. And it's not because you're the man and no, it's sit down and look at what those strengths are and make a decision as a couple, right? Make a decision. And so I applaud anybody who says like, yeah, this what we talked about it. We put the numbers on and that would make the best, that made the most sense. I think the problem becomes about us. And again, we're talking about our limiting beliefs. I'm
Mm.
supposed to. I should have. What she said something about like she was constantly working towards the shoulds
Yeah.
or operating from a shoulds instead of a want. Because she never asked what I wanted. She just, I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I should have more. I should be home more with my kids. I should be a better mom. Like, instead
Yeah.
of like, well, do I even like, is that something I want to do? And then once you do that, then you pivot and do what you based
Yeah.
on those things, right?
Because we're not asking what we want. So I think most of us, I'm guilty of it.
And we ask
I
what
came from
you
a place where
want.
should, yep.
Yeah. We ask what you want. What do they
Mhm.
want? What do they need? Right. And so no matter how high you go up that corporate ladder, you have to be really aware about what do I think about X, Y, right? What do I think about that? And does it align with my values? Does it align
Mm.
with my authentic self? And if it doesn't, how do I get there? What do I need to do to pivot so that it does align better, right?
Yeah.
There's compromise, there's all that stuff, right? But that is something that we have to start asking, is it a should or is it a want? I love that. I love that part about the
Yeah.
interview.
Yeah. How how do we practice that?
Mhm.
Because I know I'm guilty of it. I'm sure you're guilty of it. Not something that we think about in the moment until we started doing this series, right?
Yeah.
Where we don't ask the questions of what do I want? What do I need? Is this benefiting me?
Yeah. I think one of the clues to really kind of take a step back and start having some of these questions is, does what I'm doing feel like work or does it feel like it's something that I love to do? You and
Hmm.
I know, right? I've been here at work since 10 a.m. today, right? And we're hopping on to do this thing.
Yeah.
Why? Because I like it.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like work, right? If it starts feeling heavy, hard, physically, I'm tired, I feel unmotivated, I'm feeling like I don't want to get up, those are the times you have to start asking, am I shoulding or am I wanting? You
Shout out to
have
Natalie. We taking that
yeah.
phrase from you.
Yes. It really is, right? Like, that is your first clue when it's like, like, once you know when you're like,
hmm
and
Well, she called
it could
me
be the
out.
kids, it could be the job, it could be anything in
Yeah.
any aspect. I have to go see my parents. I have to go and like see some relatives. If it starts like, okay, like that's when you have to take a step back, take a deep breath and go, what's
Yeah.
going on there? Am I doing
Yeah.
this because I feel obligated, or do I really want to go and spend time with, like, 30 family members?
And if once a woman realizes, like, hey, this is no longer aligned with my purpose, well, let's take a job. And we all understand the job market is crazy right now.
Yes.
Um, so it's not like, I mean, for those that can just be like, hey, I'm just going to quit and find something else. Or
Right.
actually, a lot of women in corporate, they leave and then they
Hmm.
open up their own business. And then we'll get into that later on in the season on how to do that correctly, mentally and spiritually. So, what advice could we give women?
So there's two things, right? You can repurpose, right, your why. And so if you're in a situation where like I just can't leave, then we need to start pivoting and reframing what that job is, right? And so do you what do they call it? What did they call it 2 years ago? Quiet quitting?
Quiet quitting. Yeah.
I loved that. And it wasn't anything but like, I am just doing too much.
hmm
I'm doing too much. And so then it becomes like, you know what? I'm supposed to leave at 6. I'm going to leave at 6. I'm supposed to take my 15-minute break. Should take my 15-minute break, right? Like, you start
Yeah.
creating these boundaries where the job becomes the paycheck and no longer becomes your identity, and you find a different why. So you can create your job to have purpose, even though it's not aligned right now with who you are, because you
Mm.
just need some mental space to be able to pivot.
Yeah.
And if you're in fight or flight, there's no way, you don't have the mental capacity to even think that way. And so as you start pulling back, setting some boundaries, checking in, clocking in, you're not doing your job. You're just not going above and beyond,
Right. Right.
so that you can have some mental capacity to then go, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
Right? We start working on our resume. We start seeing whatever is out there. But all of a sudden, this job doesn't feel like I have to succeed. You no longer have to, there's not that pressure anymore.
Yeah. Even for women business owners, even for myself, and one of the things that stood out for me with Natalie, where she was like, you don't need to start over from scratch.
Yeah.
You just have to repackage to find the
Yes.
purpose. So even women who have their own business, who still, it started off where it was just like, yes, this is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this. I'm doing this for me. You can still suffer from that burnout. You could
Mm-hmm.
still go from the shoulds. Oh, I should have sent,
Yeah.
a couple more emails. I should have followed up. I shouldn't have gone on vacation because I missed that one client that was calling me, but I didn't pick
Right.
up my phone, type of thing. So it's also for business owners, it's also repackaging,
Yep. The
pivoting yourself.
reframing thing, the reframing of like, are you doing too much? Are you still bringing in those limited beliefs to now your business, right? Because then you're going to just hit the same wall again. Because now
Yeah.
you no longer is it being created for you, or it's being forced upon you. You're doing it to yourself. And so
Yeah.
that point I think was great about her conversation.
Yeah. And she even called me out, although I was exaggerating a bit on the conversation where she was like, oh, your voice dropped when you talked about elevate operations as opposed to elevate within. And it was like, yeah, because in conversations I have, my purpose is elevate within. It's helping
Mm-hmm.
women. It's doing the series. It's
Right.
having these conversations and paying it forward and educating these women. So I could still light up, as exhausted as I am. I could
I
still light
know.
up and be like, yes, this is me. So
Mm-hmm.
I told her, I was like, it's an example of when I'm having these conversations, people actually want to talk to me more about elevate within and my
Uh-huh.
perspective. And, some of the conversations I've had with these women. And if I'm going there to also talk about elevate operations, it's hard. I was like, I almost have to start elevate operations, that conversation first,
Right.
and then get into elevate within, because I told her, I was like, when I talk about elevate within, I'm all yes, 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 yes. And then it's like, all right, so now let's talk about ops. And she was like, see, you don't really like, I was like, it was operations is something that I've done for 25 years. It was
Uh-huh.
the easiest path.
Mm-hmm.
Is it my passion? My passion is really to help other founders and owners scale up their business with the same passion that I have for Elevate Within.
Right.
But if I had to choose, I know you're not supposed to like have a favorite baby, but my favorite baby
Yeah.
is Elevate Within.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it aligns with who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that will be the pivot for you. You will eventually be able to live off of your passion. But, you got to start somewhere. And we
Yeah.
got to, put the work in. And so, but it's,
It's the
doing great.
shoulds. The shoulds is operations. The wants is
Yep.
Elevate Within. So yeah, now I just put 2 and 2 together.
Yep.
Took me a minute, but I was just like, yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And they're very close together, which is why it's so hard to kind of distinguish between them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're very aligned. But yeah,
Amazing.
I like it.
Amazing. This was a great diagnosis. Even learned for myself. Claudia, what about for you? Are you doing your passion now?
I am, for sure. Yeah. I am. I'm, I say who, when, what, where, and how often.
Yep.
And so that's the part where I, even thinking about eventually retirement, I've always said like, yeah, well, I'll be retired. I'm going to retire at 62, but I'll only see like 10 clients.
Yeah. I don't have a retirement for I Help Elevate Within I'm doing until I cross over. And for folks, if you haven't heard the episode with Claudia and I where she talks about her journey, I think this is also evidence that you went from the shoulds to understanding, I'm going after what I want, and how she left the county and got her license. And it is a great family and marriage counselor.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, until next week.
Yes.
I will see you.
Can't wait. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye. If this conversation resonated with you, you're not alone. That's exactly why this space exists. Elevate Within is for the high-achieving women in the messy middle, the space between who you were and who you're becoming. The architecture of reinvention is an invitation to pause, to reflect, to heal, and to begin the process of unbecoming everything you were told you had to be, so you could become who you were always meant to be. Be sure to join us each Friday for our Architecture of Reinvention Roundtable discussions, where we continue these conversations and explore the deeper lessons, insights, tools, and reflections that emerge from each story. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube so you never miss an episode. For Apple Podcast listeners, I would be grateful if you leave a rating or review. It helps reach more women who may need this conversation right now. And if you'd like to go deeper, join us on Substack at Elevate Within. There, you'll find weekly essays and honest conversations about burnout, grief, reinvention, resilience, healing, and the messy middle. Free subscribers receive full access to all public content, while paid subscribers receive bonus essays, early access to upcoming series, behind-the-scenes recording, and opportunities to engage directly with the community. If you know of a woman who needs to hear this conversation today, please share it with her. You can find me on LinkedIn under Sandra Davis, on Substack at Elevate Within, and if you're in need of fractional COO work or would like to book a discovery call on how I can help, you can reach out to me at elevateopsadvisory.com. You'll find all those links in the show notes. Until next time, keep elevating personally, professionally, and from within.